15 minutes, you got Chief Pluggy. Chief Pluggy is a sub-chief of Blackfish. Blackfish is a Shawnee warrior, and he is talking to Chief Pluggy. Chief Pluggy's in Delaware, Ohio. He's in Old Chillicothe. Chief Pluggy is not a Mingo chief, but he has a Mingo tribe. Mingo, which was also Logan, Indian Chief Logan, who is either James or John. But Logan, just Indian Chief Logan, I think actually covers who he is. Indian Chief Logan was Mingo. The Mingo are an Iroquois group of Native Americans made up of peoples who migrated west to the Ohio country. In the mid-18th century, Anglo-Americans called the migrant Mingos, which is a corruption of Mingwe, an Eastern Algonquin name for Iroquois language groups in general. Mingos have also been called Ohio Iroquois and Ohio Seneca. So most migrated to Kansas, later Indian Territory under the Indian removal programs. Their descendants reorganized as a tribe recognized in 1937 by the federal government as the Seneca Cayuga tribe of Oklahoma. So the Mingo and the Shawnee still exist today. So the Shawnee, who is Blackfish. So the Shawnee are the ones that own Kentucky. The Shawnee are the basis for Kentucky. Just real fast. The Shawnee, they want to say that, it was just hunting grounds here. But the reason why, for the apparent consistencies, that the Shawnee people was not living in Kentucky is because they were they had a nomadic existence. So the nomads of Kentucky didn't stay in one spot, so the lack of permanent settlements. The lack of permanent settlements are the reason why they didn't know that the Shawnee had taken over. But I think that's bullshit. You got all these imperialist land developers, land companies, land speculators, Transylvania Company, Land Company, Loyal Land Company, and the Ohio Land Company. All these land companies, and you got all these settlers who want all the benefits of all of Kentucky, beautiful, wonderful Kentucky, all the rivers and valleys and berries and deers, and it's just filled with game and filled with food. Why wouldn't the Indians live here? And there's plenty of arrowheads and plenty of civilization, and there's serpent mounds right there in Ohio. There's a whole bunch of archaeological sites all throughout Kentucky. About 20, 50 of them or so. All throughout it. So all across the river, all on the bottom, all on the eastern and the western and the middle. Indians everywhere in Kentucky. So the Shawnee were nomadic at least part of the year when they moved their small family settlements in pursuit of game. They considered the land free to be used by any group who had need of it. In the summer, they settled in rather large villages. So in the summer, that's when the Shawnee had big villages, and they raised crops of corn, beans, and squash. So they're raising corn, they're raising beans, and they're raising squash. That's what the Indians are doing. That's what the Shawnee people are doing in the summer. Smaller family bands moved regularly in the winter and established rather impermanent settlements as they hunted deer, bison, and other meat and hide-producing animals. So they're killing deer, they're killing bison in the winter, and in the summer they have more permanent settlements where they're raising crops, which actually sounds smart. Kentucky was a favorite hunting area for the Shawnee. The lack of permanent year-long villages may have given the false impression that the region was not occupied by the Shawnee. But the Shawnee considered Kentucky as their own. In 1769, a group of Shawnee warned Daniel Boone to leave Kentucky because it belonged to them. When he did not obey, it cost Boone the life of his son. Jenny Wiley, the first white person that went into Kentucky, was kidnapped by a Shawnee. Shawnee did the siege of Fort Boonesborough. We also had Lord Dunmore's war was against the Shawnee. And even in Clotter's New History of Kentucky, he talks about how much resistance that the Shawnee give to the early settlers in Kentucky. So Kentucky they had permanent settlers. It wasn't just Shawnee, permanent Indian settlements, but it was also Cherokee, Chickasaw. I've heard Delaware, Yuchi mentioned, Creek Indian, which just might be any Indians by a creek. They were in small bands. Even the Shawnee had small family bands that they moved together, so there was, a hierarchy that they recognized. So Daniel Boone, he tried to go into Kentucky in 1769, was warned not to go into, and he killed Boone's son. They also killed Boone's son at the Battle of Blue Licks. Israel got shot. Israel Boone got shot at the Battle of Blue Licks. So Daniel Boone lost 2 people. And don't even tell me that Daniel Boone's a good guy. He was with George Rogers Clark. He was with, well, I don't know if he was with, did business with him. Simon Kenton was with George Rogers Clark, but Daniel Boone was Lord Dunmore's servant. He'd go around saying, hey, I'm British. I'm part of the British crown. You know, it's okay for me to be here. He had a paper saying Lord Dunmore gave him permission to go into the Kentucky county because it was a Virginia county at the time. Kentucky wasn't created until 1792. And I'm talking about 1776, Christmas Day, Chief Pluggy. Okay, so Chief Pluggy, just to stick with Chief Pluggy. Chief Pluggy, Christmas Day, has an ambush, okay? So in Johnson's Fort near Blue Licks, there's an ambush, about 40 Indians. The Shawnee sub-chief, Pluggy, they said he was a vicious sub-chief, the Pluggy, Shawnee sub-chief, underneath Blackfish, but he was a Mohawk. So a Mohawk Chief Pluggy has a Christmas Day ambush, and 2 people are killed, Jones and William Graydon. So Jones and William Graydon are killed on the Christmas raid. Chief Pluggy's Christmas raid in 1776, the same day that Washington crosses the Delaware. So you got 2 wars actually going on. You got this imperialistic war fighting the British crown, but you also have the Indians. And the Indians are stuck in between, and both the American colonists and the British are trying to get the Indians to get on their side. But to be honest with you, your enemy's enemy is your friend, and all these frontier settlements are, you know, they're British crown, they're Daniel Boone, but they're also very independent spirits. So they are, I guess, you know, they're colonists. George Roger Clark, the militia, these people were ones that fought in the Revolution, and they said that all these Indian battles was because they sided with the British. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. I know that the Indians just didn't want white people on their land. So if that meant side with the British or side with the colonists, whichever ones they thought was those ends, at least the badass ones, and Chief Pluggy is a badass one, just like Tecumseh's a badass one, and Dragon Canoe, and Blackfish, and Black Hoof, and Cornstalk. So, and the Prophet, you know, Tecumseh and his brother, the Prophet. So you have the Christmas Day raid, and then now everybody's scared at McClellan Station. This is in Georgetown. This is happening. So all the white people are scared, and they all leave. McClellan himself sends his wife and his children to Harrodsburg to leave. At the time, you had 3, in addition to McClellan Station, and after McClellan Station falls, which it will fall. So Chief Mingo was successful with this raid, even though he dies. So McClellan Station, there's 16 people that stays back to defend McClellan Station. You got the Christmas raid that kills 2 people. Now you got, you know, you got an invasion. You got an ambush that's coming in here. Chief Pluggy, the Mohawk, Chief Pluggy of the Mohawks has a Mingo tribe, a crazy renegade, rebellious force of Mingos. Like Pluggy's town was known as like the outcast. Mingos are kind of known as like the Iroquois outcasts, like the Iroquois that went to Ohio and was not tied to the Confederacy. So McClellan Station, 16 defended McClellan Station. So there's the Christmas raid. McClellan sends his daughters or his kids and his wife to Harrodsburg, and there's Harrodsburg, Boonesboro, and Logan Station. A different Logan, Colonel Ben Logan, who might have actually birthed the Indian chief Logan, but there's speculation on that. So you have, and I've seen 2 dates. I've heard this as a New Year's raid, January 1st, 1776, but I also heard December 29th. So December 29th is real close to New Year's. I could see someone just exaggerating over to that day, but they're also 2 days apart, December 29th, 1776 to September 1st. So, you know, 25th, within 5 to 7 days, there's another raid. And they were expecting it. So you got 16 people who buckled down in McClellan Station, including McClellan himself. And McClellan Station was known as the best fortified settlement in Kentucky out of the 4 mentioned: Boonesboro, Harrodsburg, Logan Station, and McClellan Station. And at dawn is when the raid happened. The Christmas raid was at noon. But this was at dawn, so as soon as the sun awakes, Chief Pluggy attacks. So New Year's Day, I'm going to say New Year's Day, but there is a possible that it was December 29th. So you got the Christmas ambush and you got New Year's Day ambush. It's December 28th right now, so this would be like tomorrow or a couple days from now. And it wouldn't be a bad idea to, to reenact some of these events and, attack Georgetown. There's still white occupiers there. There's still white settlers on the land of the Shawnee and the Chickasaw and the Creek. Kentucky has very few Indians here. So everybody that's on these lands are living on these lands because of the blood that Andrew Jackson and George Washington and Daniel Boone and Christopher Columbus and especially the Spanish conquistadors, Cortez and Hernando de Soto and whoever that guy was, I guess that was de Soto, whoever in Florida, the Fountain of Youth. So at dawn, Chief Pluggy attacks McClellan Station, and they shoot John McClellan in the head. They kill John McClellan. Chief Pluggy's, the Mohawk Chief Pluggy attacks. So this is the November. This is the New Year's raid. There's two reports about Chief Pluggy. They said the first one, 2 bullets go into Pluggy's heart. They fought for hours, okay? At dawn they attack, they fight for hours, they shoot in between some logs and they kill McClellan in the head. One gets through the logs and McClellan's dead. So McClellan's dead, and then they said that 2 bullets pierced the heart of Pluggy. There's also a report that said after McClellan was killed that a war band from McClellan Station went out and killed Pluggy in retaliation for McClellan dying. So the remaining Aboriginal, indigenous, red-skinned people, they were fighting back. They lasted for hours. They rushed the blockhouse. So when they rushed, Chief Pluggy rushed on New Year's Day straight into their house, right, with rifles. Killed John McClellan. 2 other people were killed, and that's it. So those were the 2 main pushes by Chief Pluggy. Chief Pluggy got shot. Chief Pluggy was killed. Who knows if he was chased down, shot like cowards kill him. They buried him on a bluff overlooking a spring. So some of his people went ahead and buried Chief Pluggy right there where it happened. So in Georgetown, you have the ghost of Chief Pluggy. The Mohawk Chief Pluggy is still haunting and putting hexes in Georgetown, Kentucky. So it reminds me of this Jon Stewart joke where he says something about celebrating Columbus Day by going into your neighbor's house and saying that you discovered it. That is exactly what white people did in America. So manifest destiny in the great frontier. It wasn't so great with the Native Americans. It was the way that they pushed the Native Americans on out with racism and genocide and all these things that Hitler found so impressive. Delaware, Ohio, there's a Mingo Park in Delaware, Ohio. Indian Chief Logan, they said he was a menace to settlers. There was Wyandots and Mingos, and disaffected Iroquois was in Pluggy's town. Just make sure I got everything here. Fort Pitt, Dunmore's War was 1774. Logan, so he's a Mohawk chief, and Logan was an ally of his. Simon Kitten was at McClellan Station. And Simon Kitten's a dickhead. Simon Kitten fought for George Rogers Clark, who was into killing Indians. He was at Dunmore's War. He was with George Rogers Clark expedition against Fort Sackville. He was with Mad Anthony Wayne, Northwestern Indian War, aka Little Turtles War. So Chief Pluggy was known as horse thieves and murderers. They said that the Mingo followers were a bunch of horse thieves and murderers. But at McClellan Station, after Pluggy got shot, Chief Pluggy got shot, McClellan shot, Simon Kitten follows the rest of Pluggy's men, the Mingo tribe, to see if they're going to stay around, if they're going to retaliate. And actually, they took it as a bad omen. Their chief just got shot. Their chief is dead, so they were going home, and they crossed the Ohio, and Simon Kitten followed him all the way out there. So that's Blackfish was the chief of the Shawnee. Underneath Blackfish was Chief Pluggy, and that's it. Simon Kitten and Simon Girty were also blood brothers. And Simon Girty was the white man who deflected and fought in the Indians. He was even in a Daniel Boone movie where he's the enemy. They make him look like he's the leader of the Battle of Blue Licks, or the Siege of Boonesboro. One of them to make it look like Gertie was the leader. He was a white guy. He gets the blame for it, but he wasn't the leader. Anyways, Simon Gertie and Simon Kitten were blood brothers. Simon Gertie is a badass. One of my favorite American heroes. Actually, lived to the ripe old age of 82, 81 years old. Died in Canada. Simon Gertie is a badass.